My ex Ashley called me at 11 p.m. crying because her little sister Sophia's boyfriend cheated 2 days before prom and she needed someone to take her so the dress wouldn't go to waste. When Sophia's ex Jake started mocking us at prom saying I was just a pity date, I kissed her to shut him up and we both caught feelings neither of us expected. The next morning, Ashley found Sophia in my dorm room wearing my t-shirt and started screaming about how I was only supposed to be her sister's fake date for one night, not end up in bed with her. My ex Ashley called me at 11 p.m. crying and said, I need your help. You're the only one I can count on. Her little sister needed a prom date. I almost hung up immediately. My ex Ashley was the girl who dumped me junior year for some college guy with a car, but her desperation was real. Her sister Sophia's boyfriend had cheated 2 days before prom, and she'd been locked in her room crying for 48 hours straight. The dress was bought, the tickets paid for, everything already posted on Instagram. Back when Ashley and I dated, Sophia was always around, doing homework at our table, tagging along to movies, texting me her art projects for feedback. She was like my own little sister for 2 years. Ashley knew Sophia still trusted me. She goes to that coffee shop on 5th every day after school, Ashley said. Just happen to be there tomorrow at 4. Act surprised when you see her, then offer to take her to prom when it comes up. She made me promise to make it seem natural, completely spontaneous. She plays with her bracelet when she's nervous, orders vanilla lattes when she's sad, Ashley reminded me, listing details I'd forgotten I knew. And she still has your old hoodie. She wears it sometimes. Her voice got quiet. Just be nice to her, okay? She's had a rough week. The whole thing felt like walking into an emotional minefield, but I couldn't say no. The coffee shop plan worked like a charm. Sophia lit up when I offered to take her to prom, and suddenly it was Saturday night, and I was standing at their door with a corsage. She came downstairs, and I forgot how to breathe. This wasn't the sophomore who used to steal fries off my plate. Sophia was 18 now, all grown up, hair perfectly curled, wearing this deep blue dress, looking at me like I was saving her entire senior year. You clean up nice, she said, but her hands were shaking as I pinned the corsage. At prom, we stood awkwardly by the punch bowl until the first slow song. We might as well dance, right? The moment she stepped into my arms, something clicked. She fit perfectly, her head just reaching my shoulder. You smell the same, she whispered, then turned bright red. I mean, your cologne. We danced through 3 more songs, and with each one, she moved closer. I wrote you a letter after Ashley dumped you, she admitted. 7 pages. Never sent it though. I asked what it said. She buried her face in my chest, that she was an idiot, that you deserved better. We hit the photo booth and something shifted. First picture, awkward smiles. Second, she was laughing. Third, she was looking at me instead of the camera. Fourth, her hand on my cheek. I can't believe you're here with me, she said. The final flash caught us just staring at each other. Back on the dance floor, she pulled me closer. Remember when you taught me to drive in the school parking lot? Ashley was too impatient, but you spent 3 hours with me. I did remember how proud she looked when she finally parked straight, how she hugged me a beat too long. You were always so kind, she continued, even when I was just the annoying little sister. That's when Jake walked by with his blonde freshman date, stopping right in front of us. Wow, Sophia actually showed up, he said, smirking. And you brought a friend? Not even a real date? He laughed, turning to his buddies. Look guys, she's so desperate she had to bring someone who's clearly just doing her a favor. Sophia was trembling against me, her face bright red. Jake, please, look how awkward you two are. Not even holding hands properly. His friends snickered. He's standing like he doesn't want to be here. This is just sad, Soph. At least when I cheated, I had the decency to, without thinking, I pulled Sophia close and kissed her. She went rigid with shock, then grabbed my shirt to keep from falling. The kiss was supposed to shut Jake up, but something shifted when she whispered my name against my lips. When we broke apart, everyone was staring. Jake's mouth hung open. Prom ended, and we stayed in the parking lot until 4 a.m., sitting on my car hood, her head on my shoulder. By the end of the night, we'd both caught feelings neither of us expected. She was tracing patterns on my hand, and I was playing with her hair, and we both knew this had become something real, something that would complicate everything with Ashley, but neither of us cared anymore. The buzzing of my phone pulled me out of sleep, and I grabbed it to see 47 missed calls from Ashley and 1 text that made my stomach drop. What the fuck did you do to my sister? That's when I noticed Sophia wasn't next to me in bed, but coming out of my bathroom wearing nothing but my old college t-shirt. She froze when she saw my face, and then looked at the clock showing 11 in the morning, and her eyes went wide with panic. She started grabbing her prom dress from my desk chair and shoving her jewelry into her purse, while tears rolled down her face, and she kept saying she couldn't go home, couldn't face them after what we'd done last night. Tyler knocked hard on my door and called through that Ashley was downstairs screaming at the RA to let her up, and I looked out the window to see Mrs. Martinez's car in the visitor parking. Sophia went white and ran back to the bathroom to hide while I tried to think straight, but my head was spinning because this was supposed to be one favor for Ashley, just taking her sister to prom, not ending up with Sophia in my dorm room all night. The pounding on my door started before I could even get dressed properly, and Ashley was yelling about how I was supposed to take care of her, not take advantage of her. I opened the door, and her hand connected with my face so hard I saw stars. Sophia came out of the bathroom still in my shirt and grabbed Ashley's arm, telling her to stop. Ashley dragged us both down to the common room, where Mrs. Martinez sat on the old couch, looking exhausted and disappointed. She asked Sophia directly what happened, and Sophia's voice shook as she admitted we had feelings for each other. Ashley laughed and said I was just using Sophia to get back at her. Mrs. Martinez sent both girls to wait in the car and stayed behind to look at me with this quiet anger that was worse than yelling. She said she'd trusted me, and that Sophia had looked up to me since she was 14, and if I hurt her, she didn't finish, but just shook her head and left. 2 hours later, Tyler brought me a bag of frozen peas for my face while I explained everything that happened, and he pointed out that Jake was going to find out about this, and Jake wasn't exactly known for being rational about things. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from Sophia showing me an Instagram post of our kiss at prom with over 300 likes already, and the caption saying, Sophia Martinez moving on quick, with a skull emoji. Jake had commented just 2 words underneath. underneath it. Then my phone lit up with texts from Jake saying, I thought I was some kind of hero, but he knew what I'd done, and I'd been waiting for this chance all along. Before I could even type back, he sent another saying she was supposed to wait for him to fix things, and I'd ruined everything. My phone kept buzzing all Sunday with more threats from Jake, but I just turned it off and tried to study. Monday morning, I grabbed my backpack and headed to my economics class across campus. That's when I saw Jake's truck parked right outside the student center where it shouldn't be. My stomach dropped, and I ducked behind the science building to take a long way around. My phone vibrated with a text from a number I didn't recognize saying Jake was looking for me with 3 guys. I practically ran to class but couldn't focus on anything the professor said. After that first class, I decided to skip the rest and went straight to the library. I found a study room in the back corner on the 4th floor where nobody ever goes. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart started racing, but it was just group project messages and spam. Nothing from Sophia since Saturday night, which meant Ashley probably took her phone away. I stayed in that tiny room until the library closed at midnight, then snuck back to my dorm using the side entrance. Tuesday morning, Tyler knocked on my door and told me Jake had come by yesterday afternoon while I was hiding. He'd left a note under my door that I hadn't even noticed. The paper just said to stop hiding because we needed to talk about Sophia since she was his. Tyler suggested filing a campus security report, but that felt like making everything worse. I spent another day in the library trying to study for finals, but mostly just staring at my phone. Around dinner time, I got a call from a number I didn't know. It was Sophia using her friend Emma's phone, and she was whispering. She said Ashley had been telling everyone I manipulated her and planned the whole prom thing to hurt Ashley. Her voice cracked when she said even their mom was starting to believe it. Before I could really respond, she kept talking fast, saying Jake had been texting her nonstop. He'd switch between apologizing for cheating and threatening to expose some truth about me. She didn't know what he meant, but he claimed to have information that would change how everyone saw me. The call dropped after 2 minutes, and when I tried calling back, it went straight to voicemail. Wednesday, I thought things had calmed down, so I went to get lunch at the dining hall. Big mistake. The second I walked out with my tray, Jake appeared with 2 guys from the wrestling team. Jake grabbed my shoulder hard and said we needed to talk. They walked me around the building to this area behind the dumpsters where nobody could see us. Jake started saying Ashley had told him everything about how I'd been obsessed with getting her back. He said I used Sophia as a pawn, and Ashley had been feeding him information for weeks. One of his friends held up his phone recording everything while Jake kept talking. So Jake shows up with his wrestling buddies behind the dining hall, claiming Ashley's been feeding him information for weeks. That timing seems awfully convenient. Why would Ashley suddenly team up with a guy who just hurt her sister? He showed me his phone with screenshots of texts from Ashley calling me unstable and manipulative. The timestamps went back 3 weeks before prom even happened. That's when I realized Ashley and Jake had been planning something together this whole time. They kept recording while Jake asked me questions, trying to get me to say something they could use. After about 10 minutes, they finally let me go, but Jake said to stay away from Sophia or they'd release the video. He said they'd already edited it to make it sound like I admitted to manipulating her, even though I never said anything like that. Thursday, I couldn't leave my dorm room at all. Tyler brought me a sandwich from the dining hall and said Jake's truck kept circling through the parking lot every hour. I tried to eat, but felt too sick. Finals were in 3 days, and I hadn't studied at all. My grades were going to tank, and I couldn't even care. Everything felt completely out of control, and I had no idea how to fix any of it. My phone buzzed with a text from Coach Williams, my old gym teacher from high school. He'd heard about some drama with Jake Thompson and wanted me to come by his office if I needed someone to talk to. It felt weird getting support from someone I hadn't talked to in years, but I was desperate enough to take it. Friday morning, I dragged myself out of bed and walked across campus to the athletic building. Coach was sitting behind his desk, looking exactly the same as he did 3 years ago, maybe a little more gray in his beard. He told me Jake had been on thin ice with the wrestling team all season for aggressive behavior, 3 complaints from teammates already filed. He asked if Jake was harassing me and said he needed to know everything. I told him about the truck circling, the threats, the whole mess with Sophia and Ashley. Coach took notes on a yellow pad and said he'd look into it. That afternoon, I had my shift at the campus bookstore and was restocking the psychology section when Ashley walked in. She started yelling in front of everyone, customers and co-workers all turning to stare. She was screaming about how I'd groomed her little sister, how I was always too interested in Sophia even when we were dating. People were pulling out their phones to record, and I just stood there frozen while she kept going, her voice getting louder and more shrill. Security finally showed up and escorted her out, but the damage was done. My manager pulled me into the back office and told me I needed to handle whatever this was because it was affecting the workplace. I tried calling Mrs. Martinez to explain everything, but Ashley answered Sophia's phone instead. She told me Sophia didn't want to talk to me. None of them did, then hung up. Saturday morning, exactly 1 week after prom, I sat at my laptop and typed out a long email to Sophia explaining everything. I told her about Jake's threats, Ashley's lies, the edited video, all of it. I didn't know if she'd ever see it, but I needed her to know the truth, so I titled it The Real Story and hit send. Tyler came back from the library that afternoon and showed me his phone with a sick look on his face. Ashley had been posting in our college's Facebook group, painting me as a predator who targeted her vulnerable sister. People I didn't even know were commenting, calling for me to be expelled, sharing the posts to other groups. The narrative was completely out of control and getting worse by the hour. Something was nagging at me, so I checked Ashley's Instagram from 3 weeks ago. There it was, a passive-aggressive post about being single again, with a bunch of broken heart emojis. The breakup with her college boyfriend Derek happened right before she called me about prom. This whole thing wasn't about helping Sophia at all. Ashley had been planning something from the start. Sunday morning, I couldn't leave my room without getting stares and whispers. Someone had written CREEP on my door in black Sharpie while I was sleeping. Tyler helped me scrub it off with nail polish remover, but we both knew it would happen again, probably worse next time. The isolation was crushing me. I couldn't eat, couldn't study, just sat there refreshing my email, hoping Sophia would write back. That evening, my phone lit up with an Instagram DM from Madison, Jake's new girlfriend. She said Jake was planning something for tomorrow. He'd found out where my first class was, and she was scared of what he might do to both of us. She begged me not to tell him she'd warned me. I immediately forwarded the message to Coach Williams, who called me within 5 minutes saying he was contacting Jake's parents and the school administration right away. Within 2 hours, Jake was suspended from the wrestling team pending investigation, but I knew that would only make him angrier. Monday morning, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, and when I opened it, my stomach dropped. Ashley had written a long, angry message saying Jake's suspension was all my fault and that I was destroying everyone's lives, including hers, because her boyfriend Derek had just dumped her for being too involved with her ex, meaning me. The pieces started clicking together in my head as I read her words over and over and realized she was blaming me for everything going wrong in her life. Tyler showed up at my dorm later that day with his girlfriend Emma, who went to high school with Ashley, and she told me something that made my blood run cold. Emma said Ashley had been telling people for months that I never got over her and would do anything to get back into her life, and she'd been laying this groundwork way before prom even happened. I sat there listening to Emma explain how Ashley would bring me up in conversations constantly and tell everyone I was obsessed with her, and it hit me that I was fighting two different battles at the same time. Jake wanted to hurt me physically, but Ashley was playing mind games and trying to destroy my reputation, and they weren't even working together, but their separate attacks were creating this perfect storm around me. The worst part was that Sophia was caught right in the middle of everything, and I couldn't even reach her to explain what was really happening. Tuesday, during my shift at the campus bookstore, I kept getting this weird feeling like someone was watching me, and when I looked up, I saw a girl sitting in the coffee shop section staring right at me. The second we made eye contact, she grabbed her stuff and practically ran out the door, and later I found out from Emma that she was in Ashley's sorority, which meant I was being watched and monitored. My phone rang Wednesday afternoon, and when I saw it was Mrs. Martinez calling from her work number, my hands started shaking as I answered. She spoke carefully and said she knew her daughters better than anyone, and that Ashley had always been jealous of how I treated Sophia with real kindness and respect. Then she dropped a bomb on me saying Sophia had been in love with me for years, and she was starting to understand what was really happening with this whole mess. That night at 2 in the morning, someone started pounding on my dorm room door, and when I opened it, Sophia was standing there crying and shaking. She pushed past me into my room and told me Ashley had been showing her some edited video over and over, trying to convince her that I'd used her at prom. But then she grabbed my hands and looked right into my eyes and said she knew me and knew my heart, and that Ashley was lying about everything and she could prove it. She pulled out her phone and showed me that she'd been secretly recording Ashley's rants about me for the past few days whenever Ashley would go off on these crazy tangents. We sat on my bed listening to one recording where Ashley's voice was full of rage as she admitted she needed me to pay for choosing Sophia over her at prom because everyone saw how I looked at Sophia like I'd never looked at Ashley. We stayed up all night going through recording after recording, and Ashley's obsession became crystal clear as we listened. She had orchestrated the whole prom situation, hoping I would reject Sophia, which would prove to everyone that I was only interested in Ashley. But when it backfired and I actually fell for Sophia, she completely snapped. Tyler came over Wednesday morning and helped us compile all the evidence we had, including screenshots of Ashley's texts and posts, plus all the recordings and the timeline, showing how her stories didn't match up. He was pre-law and kept shaking his head as he organized everything, saying this was clear defamation and harassment, and that we had a real legal case if we wanted to pursue it. Everything seemed to be coming together until Thursday, when Jake found out that Sophia had come to see me at my dorm. He confronted her right in the school parking lot after classes, creating this huge scene with dozens of students watching and filming with their phones. Coach Williams tried to intervene, but not before Jake started shouting that I was using Sophia just like I'd used her sister, and that she was too stupid to see it. Sophia stood there shaking as Jake kept yelling, and the crowd grew bigger with everyone recording the whole confrontation on their phones. Coach grabbed Jake's arm and pulled him back while Sophia buried her face in my chest, shaking so hard I thought she might collapse. The videos were already going viral before we even made it back to my car, and by the time I got Sophia home, my phone was blowing up with messages from everyone asking what really happened. That night I couldn't sleep, scrolling through all the posts and comments, watching people pick sides and spread rumors that got worse with each retelling. Thursday morning I met up with Tyler in his dorm, and we spent hours putting together everything we had. Screenshots of Jake's threatening texts from weeks ago, timestamps showing when Ashley started her campaign against us. Even Coach Williams gave us a written statement about Jake's pattern of aggressive behavior at school. Tyler's playing detective with all these receipts like he's preparing for the world's messiest court case. Honestly, his pre-law skills are getting quite the workout from this high school drama turned college disaster movie. Tyler helped me write out the whole truth in a detailed post with all the evidence attached, but I saved it as a draft, not ready to pull that trigger yet. Friday afternoon, everything exploded when Ashley showed up at my campus with their mom, marching straight into the quad where Sophia was studying with her roommate. Ashley was screaming about how Sophia had been secretly recording their conversations, waving her phone around and demanding Sophia come home immediately, while dozens of students stopped to watch the drama unfold. Sophia stood up slowly, her hands steady even though I could see her jaw clenched tight, and told them she wasn't going anywhere. Their mom looked torn between her daughters, watching Ashley pace back and forth, ranting about betrayal, while Sophia just stood there refusing to budge. Mrs. Martinez finally turned to me and asked if we could talk privately, so we walked to an empty classroom where she sat down heavily and asked to see the evidence everyone kept mentioning. I played her the recording Sophia had made of Ashley, admitting she'd been manipulating the whole situation, trying to break us up because she couldn't stand seeing Sophia happy with me. Mrs. Martinez's face just crumbled as she listened to her older daughter coldly planning how to destroy our relationship, and when the recording ended, she sat in silence for what felt like forever. She finally looked up at me with tears in her eyes and said Ashley needed professional help, that this wasn't about me or Sophia anymore, but about her daughter spiraling out of control. It was the first time anyone in their family had admitted admitted out loud that Ashley's behavior wasn't normal, wasn't just heartbreak or jealousy, but something deeper and more disturbing. By Friday, the whole campus narrative had shifted, with someone posting a video of Ashley's meltdown in the quad, with the caption asking who the real manipulator was. The court of public opinion was turning against Ashley fast, and I started getting messages from people who'd believed her at first, now saying they could see the truth. Madison texted me again that night, terrified because Jake had found out she'd warned me about his plans and dumped her immediately, but not before she overheard something that made my blood run cold. Jake had been accepted to my college for next year and had been planning for months to make my life hell once he got there. Not just about Sophia, but about everything. His parents showed up at school the next day after Coach Williams contacted them about their son's behavior, and his dad walked in like he owned the place, immediately threatening legal action if we kept spreading what he called lies about Jake. His father was some big-shot lawyer who started throwing around terms like defamation and harassment, completely shifting the power dynamics since they had resources we couldn't match. Saturday morning, Sophia and I met with a campus counselor who specialized in harassment cases, and she documented everything we showed her, taking notes about every incident and piece of evidence we had. She told us we had clear grounds for restraining orders against both Jake and Ashley, but that meant making everything official and public through the court system. Sophia broke down in the counselor's office, sobbing into my shoulder about how she just wanted to go to prom with someone who made her feel safe and couldn't understand how it had turned into this nightmare. I held her while we both realized how much damage had been done to everyone involved, how many lives had been turned upside down over what started as a simple favor for my ex. Tyler's girlfriend mentioned later that Ashley had been missing her classes all week, staying locked in her room while her sorority sisters worried about her mental state. Despite everything she'd done to us, I felt this weird pang of concern because the Ashley I'd dated for 2 years would never have acted like this, and seeing her fall apart was surreal. Monday morning, my phone buzzed with an email from the dean's office telling me to report immediately for a meeting about a formal complaint. I walked into the admin building and found Jake's father sitting there in a $1,000 suit with 2 lawyers flanking him like bodyguards. The dean explained that Jake's father had filed harassment charges against me, claiming I'd been stalking and threatening his son, and they were considering suspending me while they investigated. My hands started shaking as they showed me Jake's evidence, which was basically screenshots of me at places Jake just happened to be, completely leaving out how he'd been following Sophia and me for weeks. Coach Williams burst through the door halfway through the meeting carrying a thick folder of documentation. He laid out incident reports from Jake's high school showing he'd done this exact same thing to another ex-girlfriend last year, complete with restraining order paperwork and witness statements. The dean's face changed as he read through page after page of Jake's past behavior, but Jake's father just sat there smirking like none of it mattered. That afternoon, Ashley posted a video on Instagram that made my blood run cold. She'd edited together clips from our old relationship mixed with audio she'd secretly recorded of me venting about how frustrated I was with the whole situation, making it sound like I was confessing to manipulating Sophia. Within 2 hours, the video had thousands of views, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications from people calling me a predator and worse. Old friends from high school were messaging me saying they were disgusted. People I hadn't talked to in years were commenting about how they always knew something was off about me. Sophia saw the video at her friend's house and immediately posted her own response, playing the full, unedited recordings of Ashley admitting she'd set everything up. She sat there crying on camera saying her sister needed help, but she wouldn't let Ashley destroy someone she loved, and hearing her say that word made my chest tight, even through all the chaos. Mrs. Martinez showed up at our apartment that night looking exhausted and told us she was pulling Ashley out of school immediately. She'd already made arrangements for Ashley to enter a treatment program for emotional regulation issues after talking to Ashley's therapist, who'd been worried about her escalating behavior for months. Before Ashley left campus, she sent me one text that just said she was sorry and that she'd lost herself somewhere along the way. With Ashley gone, Jake lost his inside source of information and started spiraling hard. He showed up at Sophia's high school Tuesday afternoon, despite his suspension, screaming at the security guard that he needed to talk to her. The principal had to call the police to physically remove him from the property while the whole school watched through the windows. His college acceptance letter got revoked that same day after the administration saw the police report. Wednesday, I tried going back to my normal routine, but everything felt broken. People stared at me in every class, whispering behind their hands, and my professors kept giving me these concerned looks like they didn't know what to believe. My grades were tanking because I couldn't focus on anything, jumping every time someone walked behind me thinking it might be Jake. Sophia and I texted constantly throughout the day, both of us checking in every hour to make sure the other was okay. Jake's father called me Wednesday night offering to make everything go away if we signed NDAs and agreed to drop all the charges. He promised Jake wouldn't attend my college and would transfer out of state if we just kept quiet about everything that happened. Tyler warned me over the phone that signing anything could look like we were admitting guilt, leaving us stuck between wanting this to end and needing to protect ourselves legally. Thursday morning, Madison showed up at my door looking sick with guilt, holding her phone with screenshots of messages between her and Jake. The texts went back to before prom, showing Jake planning his revenge while he was still dating Sophia, assuming she'd take him back after he cheated because she always forgave him before. Madison had kept quiet because she was scared of Jake, but couldn't live with herself anymore after seeing what he'd done to us. I met with Jake's father alone Thursday afternoon at a coffee shop downtown, ignoring Tyler's texts telling me not to go. His father sat across from me looking tired, and I told him his son needed help just like Ashley did, that this wasn't about winning or losing anymore, but about stopping things before someone got seriously hurt. His father's face went dark when I mentioned therapy, and he stood up so fast his coffee spilled across the table. That night around 10, Tyler texted me that Jake was losing it at home, throwing stuff and screaming at his dad about how therapy was for losers. 20 minutes later, campus security called me asking if I knew why some drunk kid was banging on the dorm entrance yelling my name. I ran downstairs to find Jake pressed against the glass doors with 2 security guards holding him back, while at least 30 students had their phones out recording everything. He was screaming about how I'd ruined his life and turned his dad against him, and when he saw me through the glass, he tried to lunge forward but stumbled and fell. The guards had to drag him to their office while he kept shouting threats that echoed through the whole lobby. Friday morning, the police showed up at my door with questions about the incident, and by noon, Jake was sitting in a cell for drunk and disorderly conduct, plus violating the campus ban. His dad couldn't make this disappear, since half the freshman class had posted videos online of Jake threatening to kill me. The college sent an email that afternoon saying they were rescinding his acceptance letter effective immediately due to conduct violations. Mrs. Martinez pulling Ashley out of school for treatment seems awfully convenient timing, right when things were getting legally messy for her daughter. Jake's dad throwing around his lawyer weight while his son has a documented history of this behavior makes me wonder how many times money has made Jake's problems disappear before. Tyler heard from Jake's cousin that his dad went ballistic when he had to bail Jake out, telling him he'd destroyed 18 years of planning in 3 weeks of stupidity. Friday night, Sophia called me crying because tomorrow was her graduation, and everything was ruined with Ashley in treatment, and Jake facing charges, and us being the talk of the whole town. I picked her up, and we sat in my car outside the closed mall, just staring at the empty parking lot. She kept twisting her graduation cap in her hand, saying maybe we should take a break until fall when she started college and things calmed down. The words hit me like a punch, because after everything we'd been through, losing her now felt impossible. She was crying and saying it made sense to start fresh, but her hand was holding mine so tight I could feel her shaking. Saturday morning, I put on my only suit and drove to the high school where Mrs. Martinez was saving me a seat in the bleachers. People stared and whispered when I walked past, but I didn't care because I was there for Sophia. When they called her name and she walked across that stage in her blue cap and gown, she looked right at me and smiled for real for the first time in weeks. The whole gym erupted in applause, and for just that moment, everything else disappeared. Her mom grabbed my hand and squeezed it while we watched Sophia get her diploma. After the ceremony, we went to the Martinez house for the graduation party, where relatives kept congratulating Sophia while shooting confused looks at me. Around 4 o'clock, Jake showed up with his parents, out on bail, and looking like he hadn't slept in days. Everyone went silent when he walked up to Sophia on the back patio. He stood there shaking and told her he'd messed up everything, including his college and future, all because he couldn't handle her choosing someone else. His mom was crying, and his dad kept apologizing to everyone while pulling Jake toward their car. Jake's father told us quietly they were sending him to live with relatives in another state starting Monday, and we wouldn't have to worry about him anymore. Just like that, the threat that had been hanging over us for 3 weeks was gone. Sunday morning, my phone rang, and it was Ashley calling from the treatment center with a voice I'd never heard from her before, quiet and broken. She said she needed to apologize properly, not asking for forgiveness, but just needing me to know she understood what she'd done was wrong. The call lasted maybe 5 minutes, but hearing her take responsibility without excuses or blame felt like something shifting. That afternoon, Sophia and I took our first normal walk since prom. No checking over our shoulders or jumping at car sounds. We walked through the park, and she suddenly stopped and told me she didn't want to break because we'd survived the worst thing imaginable, and if we made it through this, we could handle anything. Monday, I made an appointment with a therapist because the anxiety was eating me alive, and I couldn't sleep without checking my door was locked 5 times. Sophia started seeing someone too, and we learned that just because we'd survived the crisis together didn't mean we automatically knew how to be normal together. We had to figure out how to date without drama, how to have conversations that weren't about lawyers or police or family disasters. 2 weeks later, summer hit, and I spent most of June retaking the finals I'd completely bombed during all the chaos, while Sophia worked at the bookstore downtown. We texted each other boring stuff all day, like what we had for lunch or complaints about the heat or stupid memes, and it felt so normal after everything. Tyler showed up one morning to help me move to a different dorm for senior year, since the old one had too many bad memories, and while we were packing boxes, I found the corsage from prom pressed between 2 textbooks, all dried out and fragile. My hands shook holding it because that night felt like it happened in a different lifetime before everything went crazy. Mrs. Martinez called me that weekend and asked me to come for dinner, which felt weird, but I couldn't say no to her after everything she'd been through. Walking into their house made my chest tight because Ashley's chair at the table was empty, and everyone kept looking at it without saying anything until Mrs. Martinez started telling stories about when the girls were little. She showed me pictures of them dressed as matching witches for Halloween and building sandcastles together and sharing a bike before Ashley got competitive about everything and started treating Sophia like competition instead of a sister. The food tasted like cardboard in my mouth, but I stayed until 10 listening to her talk because she needed someone to remember the good times with. July 4th came fast, and Sophia climbed up to the roof of my new dorm with a blanket and snacks to watch the fireworks over the river. She kept playing with her phone while the first explosions lit up the sky and finally pulled up something in her notes app. She showed me the screen where she'd saved a letter dated 4 years ago right after Ashley dumped me, and my stomach dropped reading it. The words blurred together, but I caught pieces about Ashley being stupid and how maybe when Sophia was older, I'd see her as more than just the little sister. And at the bottom, she'd signed it Love S with a little heart. My face burned, and I couldn't look at her while she explained she'd written it crying in her room that night but never had the guts to send it. The fireworks kept going off above us, and she pressed closer to my side while I processed that she'd had feelings for me since she was 14. Late July brought a letter from Ashley saying she'd finished her first month of treatment and was doing better, but moving to Oregon to live with their aunt and start fresh away from everything. She didn't ask for forgiveness, just explained how sick she'd been and took responsibility for hurting everyone, and said she hoped Sophia and I would be happy together. Sophia cried reading her copy copy, and we spent that whole night talking about complicated families and mental illness and how love and hate could exist in the same space. August meant college prep, and I drove Sophia to Target and Bed Bath & Beyond to buy sheets and organizers and a mini fridge for her dorm an hour away at State. We loaded the cart with normal college stuff, but my chest kept getting tight, thinking about her being gone, even though an hour wasn't that far, and we'd already survived way worse than distance. The cashier made a comment about young love and college, and we both turned red, but didn't correct her. Some nights I'd wake up in a panic thinking I heard Jake's truck outside, or someone trying my door handle even though he was gone, and the restraining order was permanent. Sophia admitted she did the same thing, and still checked her locks multiple times, and jumped when doors slammed, and we realized the trauma didn't just disappear, because the danger was over. She ran into Madison at the mall in mid-August while shopping for school clothes, and they ended up talking by the food court for 20 minutes. Madison looked rough with dark circles under her eyes, and kept apologizing for believing Jake's version of everything, and not seeing through his lies sooner. She was in therapy too, trying to deal with the guilt of almost being part of something so messed up, and Sophia actually hugged her before they parted ways. Coach stopped by my dorm the last week of August to check on me, and mentioned that more of Jake's former teammates had come forward with stories about his behavior that made my skin crawl. He put his hand on my shoulder and said I'd probably saved the next girl from going through the same thing or worse, and that sometimes doing the right thing meant taking hits, but it was worth it in the end. The next few weeks, Sophia and I started building something real between us. We met for coffee every Sunday morning at this little place near campus. She'd text me funny memes during her boring classes, and I'd send her pictures of whatever weird food the dining hall was serving. Wednesday nights we'd video call and talk about our days while she painted her nails, and I pretended to study. We made this rule where we'd each share one new thing we learned that day, even if it was just some random fact from Wikipedia. It felt different from how things started with Ashley back in high school, more deliberate and careful. Her mom called me near the end of August while I was packing for my senior year. She told me Ashley was finally getting help, taking her medication every day, and going to therapy twice a week. She'd even started taking online classes to finish her degree. Her mom's voice got quiet when she said Ashley wanted to apologize to both of us someday, when she was ready, when we were ready. I told her maybe someday, but not yet. Packing my stuff for senior year, I kept thinking about how much had changed since prom night. The guy who only agreed to help his ex's sister seemed like a stranger now. I was more careful about everything, double-checking my car doors were locked, saving screenshots of texts, but I was also more sure of myself. Getting through all that drama with Jake proved I could handle way worse than I ever imagined. The week before Sophia started college, we were both nervous wrecks. Not about us, we were solid, but about her walking around campus where people might recognize her from all the viral posts. She kept asking what if someone figured out who she was? What if the whole story followed her to college? I helped her move into her dorm on September 1st, carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs in 90-degree heat. Her roommate seemed nice, some girl from Ohio who'd never heard of our town. We set up her desk and hung her posters, and it felt like a fresh start for her. When I left, she kissed me goodbye in the hallway, not desperate or needy like at prom, but confident and sure. Jake's dad shipping him off to relatives like he's returning a broken appliance to the manufacturer is peak parenting damage control. 18 years of investment down the drain faster than you can say restraining order. Driving back alone, I thought about how pain spreads from person to person. Ashley's breakdown became our crisis. Jake's rage poisoned everyone around him, but we were proving that cycles could be broken. Senior year started and we found our rhythm pretty quick. I focused on my classes and grad school applications, while Sophia threw herself into freshman year. We visited every other weekend, taking turns making the 2-hour drive. It was work keeping things going with the distance, but we made it work. Jake's dad called me in October to tell me Jake was in some residential treatment program getting real help. His dad apologized again, said they'd enabled Jake for too long, and thanked me for forcing them to see what their son had become. I didn't know what to say, so I just wished them luck. Halloween weekend. Sophia came to visit, and we went to a party dressed as characters from some old movie. Someone recognized us from all the drama online, but instead of making it weird, they just said they were glad we made it through everything. We took normal pictures like any other college couple and posted them without worrying about who might see. Thanksgiving came faster than expected, and suddenly we were all sitting at the Martinez family table together. Ashley was there, quieter than I'd ever seen her, more thoughtful. The medication and therapy had changed her, made her calmer and more aware of everything around her. After dinner, she pulled Sophia and me aside and said she was sorry. Just those 2 words, no excuses or explanations. We didn't hug or cry or have some big moment, but Sophia nodded and I said, okay, and that was enough for now. The next morning, Ashley knocked on Sophia's door early and they disappeared into her room for what turned into 4 hours. I sat in the living room playing video games but couldn't focus, hearing muffled voices through the walls that went from angry to quiet to laughing to crying again. Tyler texted, asking if I wanted to grab lunch, but I couldn't leave, not with whatever was happening upstairs. Around noon, their mom brought them sandwiches, and when she came back down, she squeezed my shoulder and said they were working through things. Finally, the door opened, and they came downstairs holding hands, both with red eyes but small smiles. Sophia sat next to me and took my hand, while Ashley sat across from us. We're going to be okay, Sophia said. All of us. Ashley nodded and told us she'd gotten into a college in Oregon for spring semester, that she needed to be somewhere new, away from all the memories and who she used to be here. The acceptance letter had come last week, but she hadn't told anyone yet. We helped her start packing over the next few weeks, sorting through years of stuff in her room, and when January came, we drove her to the airport together. December brought its own changes when Sophia and I went to the mall to look at Christmas presents and ended up in a jewelry store staring at promise rings, not engagement rings. We both knew we weren't ready for that, but something that meant we were choosing to grow together. She picked simple silver bands, and when we exchanged them on Christmas morning, her parents smiled and her dad actually hugged me. The acceptance letter from grad school came in February, the program in the same city where Sophia was already accepted accepted for college, and suddenly, our impossible future was taking real shape. New Year's Eve, we went to Tyler's party, and at midnight, surrounded by everyone who'd stood by us through everything, Sophia kissed me, while Tyler shouted about us having the most dramatic how we met story ever. He wasn't wrong, but looking at Sophia laughing in my arms, I wouldn't change any of it. January was quiet in the best way, with Sophia making Dean's List her first semester of community college, and my grad program acceptance becoming official. Ashley sent us a photo from Oregon, where she was hiking with new friends, actually smiling, and Sophia printed it out and stuck it on her mirror. I spent a weekend writing thank you letters to everyone who'd helped us survive, Coach who testified, Tyler who never left my side, Mrs. Martinez who protected Sophia, even Madison who'd stood up when it mattered. Valentine's Day came, and we went back to the place that rented photo booths, recreating our prom pictures, but this time we were both looking at the camera, confident and sure of ourselves and each other. The scared kids from that night had grown into something stronger. In March, a letter came from Jake, forwarded from his treatment program as part of making amends, and I read it once, then put it in a drawer without responding. Some wounds heal clean, and others just scar over. Both are valid ways to end things. May 18th came faster than expected, exactly 1 year since prom, and Sophia asked if I wanted to go somewhere special, but instead, we ended up in the same parking lot where everything started. We sat on the hood of my car looking at the stars, and she asked if I'd do it all again, knowing everything that would happen. I thought about the pain and the fear and the losses, about Ashley's breakdown and Jake's violence and all the ugly truths we'd had to face. Then I looked at her, stronger now, confident, wearing the promise ring that caught the moonlight. Every single time, I told her. We were different people now, forged by fire but not consumed by it, and the crisis that should have destroyed us became the foundation of something unbreakable, not perfect, and definitely not without scars, but real and completely ours. Well, this has definitely been quite the journey to share with you all. Appreciate you hanging in there through all my questions and wonderings. Like the video, it helps more than you think.